Jesus said there are two ways to build a house in his parable that he gave in the Gospels. One way is you can build your house on the sand with no foundation. But when the storms come, that house will fall. Or you can build your house on a rock. You can dig deep and find the rock, build your house on that rock. And when the storms come, the storms of life, the storms of the trials and the sufferings of time itself, that house will stand. And of course, Jesus later proclaims, I am the rock. And upon this rock, the church will be built. Now, it's so important that we have a firm foundation for our faith. One time a man was asked, what did he believe? And he said, well, I believe what the church believes that I go to. And they said, well, what does your church believe? And he said, well, the church believes the same thing I believe. And so he was asked the next question, well, what do you both believe? He said, well, of course, we both believe the same thing. Now, I think that's a sad commentary on the foundation of the faith of most people who call themselves Christians or even believers. They really do not know what they believe, or they have no clue what the foundation of their faith is. Now, that's so very important. I had the opportunity to attend a conference last night that really was so enlightening and so encouraging as we look at America and where we are in our journey, where we are in our history right now. And some of the things I heard were just fantastic and reminded me of the importance of our study of the book of Romans, because the book of Romans builds the foundation of our faith that really brought about this idea called America. In 1787, after the Constitution was drafted, a woman asked Ben Franklin, well, what have you given us? And he says, we have given you a republic if you can keep it. Our founding fathers looked at the people in America and realized that there was a radical idea, and that idea in the world in which they live was that man who would self-govern could have a government or have a country that had a set of laws that people would obey, and because of that, they would be a free people. Now, 3 words I learned last night I think are so important. The word virtue. The word virtue. Now, virtue comes from faith. That's the second word. And then that leads to freedom. Anyone who has a faith in God, a faith in a true and a living God, then they begin to live a life of virtue. That means they self-govern themselves. They discipline themselves not to steal, not to kill, not to covet, not to run over other people, to live a life of humility, to live an obedient life to the authorities that have been placed over them. That's called virtue. Living a life not for themselves, but living a life for God and others. Virtue. When people have faith, then they can have virtue, and virtue then gives us freedom. And that's what our founding fathers saw in the people of America after the Great Awakening, and realized these people can self-govern. But when a people, and one of our founding fathers, I think it was James Madison, says, America and this Constitution was written for a moral people. If the people ever become immoral, this Constitution will not work, because it gives us a republic, a land of laws. But if no one obeys the laws, then we're in trouble. My friend, America was an idea. That's what makes us an American. We have bought into the idea. So we must have a foundation for our faith. We must have a foundation that gives us the opportunity to live a life of virtue that then lets us express the freedom that we truly have to do what we ought to do, not what we want to do to please self. Oh, my friend, I trust that today as you study this book of Romans with us, you look deep, 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 deep to find out what your faith is built on. Is it built on the solid rock, the Word of God, Jesus Christ? Or is your faith built on just what you think you want to believe and feel like That's what will help us. Now, my friend, no, what we need more than anything else is a firm foundation. May the Lord help us today as we seek His face and lay the foundation even deeper in our lives for the glory of God. God bless and have a wonderful day.